All right, y'all. One thing I love doing every election year is I love looking at these numbers. I love looking at this data, and I like forecasting who is about to be our president, right? For the record, I'm an independent, I'm not Democrat, not Republican. I voted for both. Um, so with that being said, I kind of compiled a lot of data, as you can kind of see here, and I base it off of really 2020 and 2024. And when you see pre, that means mail-in plus early voting. And requested just means the amount of mail-in ballots requested per party. And you can kind of see the differences and then have up-to-date numbers as of today, October 25th. So these numbers will be increasing, and we can definitely keep updating this as the days and weeks go by as we get closer to election day. But really, I kind of focus on these swing states, right? That's what everyone's looking at. Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Michigan. And I kind of put these notes here because I think looking at the Senate race for Michigan would be telling. Looking at the House of Representatives race for the state of Georgia, looking at the governor for the state of North Carolina, looking at the Senate race for Pennsylvania, looking at the Senate race for Arizona, looking at the Senate race for Nevada. And honestly, I did not put anything for Wisconsin because if you can see Wisconsin here, in 2020, Trump was crushing it early, but the day of, Biden and crew turned it around and won the state. And I don't see any reason why that wouldn't continue based off these numbers. And if you see here, they've actually requested more Republican votes in 2020, but it's been flipped in 2024. So I think out of all the swing states, to me, this is probably the easiest to call. And your magic number is 270. So which candidate can we get to 270? So we're going to flip Wisconsin blue. Okay. Next up, we're going to look at Nevada. Um, we can look at the Senate race real quick here, just so you guys can kind of see here. So I'm just using 538 just to kind of look at the polls. And if you kind of notice, dead heat, Democrat, Senator, Democrat, if you notice, it is really trending Democrat. So you would think this would be a shoe-in for Kamala. But these numbers kind of tell a different story. So I could not get the requested numbers for Nevada for 2020, but early voting was huge in Nevada. And early voting is going to tell you who is going to win the state. So Nevada, you really have to pay attention to these early voting numbers. And as you can see these early voting numbers, Democrats had the early advantage of a 53,000 and held on and won the state by 33. Right now, Donald Trump is in the lead. That is completely flipped. And that is why it's puzzling that the Senate is so blue, but the numbers scream red. So this is going to be one of the cases where I'm going to lean on the numbers screaming red because it almost seems like when it comes to the presidential election portion of it, Trump is really on course to win Nevada. And early reports are saying Clark County, which is Las Vegas area, is really close. And if Kamala does not dominate that, she's not winning Nevada. So if we move on to Arizona, you'll kind of see a trend here as well. Big Republican early vote. But these numbers are eerily similar to last year. What I found interesting is there was 400,000 less requested ballots. compared to last year. So that means people must be leaving Arizona in droves. With that being said, you really have to kind of take a peek and slice these numbers, man. They are razor thin. But if you can see, Donald Trump is underperforming in terms of last year. And if you look at the Senate race here in Arizona, I think that is actually a little bit more telling. And the reason is because Kari Lake is a big, big, big Trump supporter. And these numbers are really not close, which to me is concerning for Trump. With it being so close, but the Senate being so far, you almost have to give that to Kamala. So with that being said, let's move to Pennsylvania. And everybody is kind of talking about how close Pennsylvania is going to be. And even myself, I thought Pennsylvania was going to decide the election. I've done a complete 180 on that, and it's 100% based on these numbers. Just check these numbers out. Biden had almost a million vote lead going into election night and barely won the state. Kamala is seriously underperforming at this very moment in time. There's still time, but these numbers are nowhere near where Biden was polling. Um, to me, that's a big difference, and to me, that's enough to put Pennsylvania red, even though if you look at the Senate race in Pennsylvania, you'll see it's close. There's a pretty big gap here, but it's pretty 50-50 for the most part. These numbers are really, really, really concerning for Kamala. I just do not like her chances in Pennsylvania, and I'm going to say the same for North Carolina. Um, North Carolina is a dead heat, and Joe Biden had about a 200,000 vote lead. And if we look at the governorship, which is probably a good indication or a better indication for a state, you'll see here actually Democrats are killing it, which is puzzling to say the least. Um, I just don't understand how the governorship can be this far, but it just goes to show you how crazy the presidential election is and how close these numbers are. It's a dead heat. They're requesting the same amount of ballots for each party. And what's interesting is Democrats came out, voted early, but lost the state. I'm going to expect that trend continue. So with that being said, I am going to mark North Carolina red. And out of curiosity, now there is no 2024 House data, Senate data. There's no race. But yeah, you see here, it's just kind of based on counties. So that's why houses is kind of hard to gauge. Um, but we're gonna go with red based off these numbers that I have made here. So with that being said, we are down to two states, right? Um, Michigan, Georgia, and at this moment in time, Trump has a slight edge in my projection. Now I'm gonna go to Georgia. Um, Georgia is interesting. Georgia last election cycle, Trump had a about 320,000 vote lead. But Democrats requested more ballots at the end of the day. and won the state by the slimmest of margins. Now, kind of like Pennsylvania, but not as dramatic, Trump is really underperforming compared to where he was 4 years ago when he lost the state. And based off this requested amount, Dems are about the same as they were 4 years ago. There's about 1.5-ish left in votes. You can see a path for both. But what's concerning here is just the amount Trump is underperforming by and the amount of ballots Democrats are requesting. So, with that being said, based off Democrats' performance in 2020, you almost have to give this to the Democrats, which means all roads lead to Michigan. You're as tight as you can be, as we are projecting, right? Everybody's saying this is going to be a tight race. Now, Michigan is interesting because if you look at the numbers, they scream Kamala. Trump had a lead. Trump had the requested lead as far as ballots, requesting the amount of ballots, but Joe Biden won. And at this rate, Democrats are performing at a much higher rate in 2024 than they did in 2020. Democrats have the cushion, not Donald Trump this time around. Now, the reason this is interesting, because you'll see it leads blue. Everything points blue. So if I go to Michigan, I mean, we can take a peek at the House, right? These are all kind of different counties. Michigan, Democrat, Republican, Republican, Republican. Republican are leading the majority of these little counties when it comes to the House. When it comes to the Senate, though, you'll see a big lead for Democrats. You're going to see a lead for Democrats. You're going to see a lead of Democrat. Everything is favoring Democrats. Now, as the thing that's giving me pause is there's been many reports that Kamala and crew is fearful that they're going to lose Michigan. That is the most interesting thing to me. Numbers say she should win it, but her own party is fearful that she's going to lose it. So really, all roads lead to Michigan, and Michigan does not release any voter data. With that being said, I have to trust the data. So according to my first forecast, Kamala Harris is going to be your president.